guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. Today I will be working on my 2000 Ford Explorer, the Exploder, and it's a second gen Explorer. And if you have one of these or a similar vehicle around the same time frame from Ford, maybe some others, the issue is the steering wheel control buttons have deteriorated, cracked, fallen apart, and I mean they actually became kind of gooey and sticky at some point. I replaced them once before, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. And the issue had returned like a year or two ago, and they just split down the middle. One of the buttons completely shattered apart into a million pieces. And so what we're going to do is replace the buttons with these fancy OEM looking ones. I can't remember what brand this is. I'll have a link in the description for these ones specifically. We're going to go ahead and get these things replaced, and what we need to do to start it off is unhook your battery, because you will be working around your steering wheel airbag, and the last thing you want to do is catch an airbag into your face, or especially if you have a tool in front of it. And yeah, so we're gonna walk over to the car, get the hood popped, and get the battery disconnected, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the old busted ones out and the new hotness installed. Heading over to the Exploder, we're gonna go ahead and get that hood popped up, and yeah, we'll get that battery unhooked. Real quick, wanted to show you what I was talking about regarding the buttons. As you can see, this one is completely gone, shattered apart. This button's still here, and this side's not too bad. This one actually still feels pretty good, but they do come in a set, so you can't actually replace just one. I believe the cable is connected to both. And then this button is almost sticky, like it feels almost like electrical tape, you know, if you leave it in the sun too long. So the texture on it is pretty nasty. So let's go ahead and get underneath the hood and get that battery disconnected. As you can notice, if you've seen my previous video, I'll have a link up here. I have the excess power AGM battery, and it's kind of a custom battery tie down setup here. So if you have a traditional battery, you know, you just go ahead and disconnect your negative. And so for me, it is just this single little Allen head bolt here, where I can fling that. Super easy to disconnect. And just make sure you don't drop anything. And there we are. I'll push it to the side. And we're gonna go ahead and let this thing sit for a little while to discharge. Just give yourself a little extra safety when we go ahead and get into that steering wheel and get that cover off, and then get those buttons replaced. After you let it sit for a little while, you'll notice you have these little plastic covers here. There's 2 of them, one on each side of the steering wheel, and I went ahead and removed this one. You can see it, and below it is, I believe, a 5/16 bolt, but pretty much just get something you can get in there and kind of pop this cover off, and just make sure you don't gouge out everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this removed, and I'm gonna try not to scratch it all up, and then we'll go ahead and get those 2 bolts removed, and then we should be able to then remove this center portion of our steering wheel. Still here on the side, as you can see, the plastic little cover cap has been removed, and I'm going to use this 5/16 socket and go ahead and remove this. I'm going to remove it from both sides, and that should then give us access to the underneath of the center of the steering wheel and to the buttons. Both of the buttons have been removed, and this whole centerpiece should come out. Now be careful, there is an airbag attached to this, so do not let this thing blast you in the face. You can see here's a little plug here, if you can disconnect if you wish, or you can kind of push this out of the way and hope it doesn't explode. I'm going to just kind of set it up here, and then we're going to have 2 Phillips head screws here and here holding the buttons in place. Do note, on this side, the left side, there is a ground that you have to have hooked to that bolt as well. And you can see the ribbon cable kind of just goes behind everything here. Just got to finesse it through here, and then the plugs right here below the airbag plug or horn. I think that's the airbag. And yeah, so I'm going to get this whole center module kind of, you know, pushed out of the way. And just make sure you don't rip or damage the cable, and do not drop this and, you know, potentially blow your face off, which, you know, would make for a disappointing Saturday. Hopefully you can see what I'm working on here. I'm gonna start with the right side and go ahead and just unscrew this right side button, and just make sure you do not drop your screws somewhere you cannot find them. You can see here, the right button module has been removed. Go ahead and get the left one now. Try to give you a little just a little push tab. You push it in, plug comes right out, as you can see here. And then we're gonna have to also face, you have another plug right here that comes around and plugs here, and there's one right here. I believe these just pull straight off. Just make sure you don't break anything. Well, hopefully they just kind of wiggle them around and work them loose. Okay, that was a pain. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. And these, I don't know if they're just kind of corroded a little bit or super hard to get off these nubs. I actually gashed my thumb a little bit, but that should then allow you to feed these through and get these old buttons out of here. Have the new buttons ready to go. I went and removed the ribbon cable, and as I was pulling the connector off pretty casually, and it completely shredded and the connector broke. So you can see here, it is a broken mess because the connector, the wires came separated right from the connector. So I'm going to be reusing my ribbon cable, which then, in retrospect, I should have never removed it from the steering wheel. So yeah, anyways, this connector is going to be going on the left side. You can see here with the grounding cable here, and has this little wire here. The next one in line is this one. It's going to be on the right button module with this little connector. And then you have the lonely connector. It's going to be going to this connector right here. And pretty much I'm going to have to feed it from this side, starting with the left module, feed it through and work it to over here, come out around here, and then we can plug it into the button. Same from here. I'm gonna have to feed this this solo one here. I can't remember if I came from the bottom or top, but I'll have to mess with it. I'll do that off camera, get all this ribbon cable wired and ran, and then we'll circle back. I have the ribbon cable ran, probably not the greatest. You probably can do better. It's kind of twisted in a few places. As long as I can clear the airbag module here, I should be fine. We'll check that in a little bit. And so I end up feeding through the bottom. Seemed like the best method, and I went ahead and plugged in here and here. I plugged into the main plug connector here, and then I plugged it back into the new buttons. And once I screw in the Phillips heads here and here, I'll hook up this one. I believe the red wire is on the top on both sides. That's what I did here. But once I screw this in, I'll go ahead and just do a quick check, let you guys know if this is correct, and I'll see if these light up and whatnot. and then we'll start buttoning everything else up and then wrap this video up. Went ahead and screwed in the 2 Phillips head screws that hold in the switch modules. I hooked the battery up for a little bit, checked, super dim. I guess they don't normally glow super bright, but I was able to put a blanket over me and I was able to scope these out. They do look like they were glowing with the lights on, so that looks like these are wired up correctly, so keep that in mind. The red striped wire on both sides is going to be on the top here and here. So we're going to go ahead and get this airbag module put back into place, the 2 bolts to button it up, and then the little plastic covers, and then we will wrap this video up. Unfortunately, this one took a little bit longer than expected with a couple problems, especially with my tripod. Already ordered a new one, so hopefully not too big of a setback. But yeah, let's get this thing wrapped up. Wanted to make a quick note, as I was trying to put the airbag module back in place, I ended up rerouting these little plugs on each side. I had it kind of ran right here and it was causing a little bit of interference getting this in place. So I actually ran it up, under, and looped it around the top here. So hopefully I can get this to snap into place and then screwed in. And that wraps up the button install for your steering wheel. Pretty easy, as you can see here, much nicer, no gaping hole. And as mentioned earlier, here is the connector that came with my buttons, that these just ripped right off. I mean, hardly any pressure. I grabbed the connector here and my hand slipped just a little bit and these just came sheared right off. So this is the new cable that I've not using, and here are the buttons. Got the nice tactile feedback on them. And I checked the lighting, they looked like they were good to go. And yeah, hooked everything back up. See here? And yeah, we should be good to go. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully the video wasn't too unexciting. And if you have the same issue with your buttons, which I think almost all these that are any kind of age on them, these are pretty much disintegrated. Easy swap. Go ahead and knock these out. They're cheap. I'll have a link in the description. Yeah, check out my other videos. Feel free to subscribe. I have more content coming for the Exploder, also for my dirty ZL1 over here, my wife's Mustang, maybe the El Camino, and you know, hopefully we'll get these videos rolling and keep you guys entertained a little bit. So as always, peace.